Today on the Ask Brady Show, we talk about mission statements. Yay or nay? Well, hey there! And welcome to the Ask Brady Show, episode number 58. We've got 4 great questions from the people of Pro Church Nation, and I'm joined as always to my left, your right. It's Roxanne.
It's true.
True it is, behind the camera, the editing wizard himself, Jonex! And the man with the cam, Alex Mills.
Thanks. It's not really as special as it sounds because I work here, but I'm here.
Roxanne, take us away with the first question.
All right, the first question comes from Bill, and he sent in a video.
Bill!
Thank you for this, Brady. But I have a couple of questions, if I may. First one is, you talk about call to action. Where is this call to action button on Facebook? And like that, if there's a call to action button, does it refer to the church website? Because right now I'm not happy with our church website. So apart from changing the website completely, how can I have a call to action without referring to our website? Thank you. Have a blessed weekend.
Well, thanks for the question, Bill. Bill's question is referring to the Ultimate Facebook Ads Blueprint download. I think it's available within Pro Church Academy.
Yeah.
Did we give it away for free somewhere?
No, it's one of the $7 ones, I think.
Okay. So it's only a paid product. Okay, so basically we talk about how to set up a Facebook ads campaign for your church with that. And the way that Facebook ads work is that you are leveraging the existing platform of Facebook where attention is being paid, and you are paying to siphon off some of that attention to your own platform. And so basically, for an ad to work, at least most of them, the general way is that you would link up your own page, and someone would click on your Facebook ad and go there. Now, Bill is being very timely mentioning creating a new website because in just... Wait, is Nucleus live already?
It'll be live by the time this is, yeah.
It's live. Oh, yeah, Nucleus is live. So, I mean, if you want to rebuild your whole church website, hey, nucleus.church is the place to do that. But of course, if you're not into that, there are a number of different tools that you can use to create landing pages, is what they're called. Singular pages that exist online, separate from your church website, that you could use as your call to action on Facebook. And a number of tools that we've used in the past that were great: clickfunnels.com, leadpages.com, optimizepress.com, instapage.com. So many different options. These tools, they are paid. They'll allow you to build a full single page on a website that you could use to send people from Facebook ads. And this is actually one of the best ways to use Facebook ads because you probably don't want to send them to your main website. You want to send them to a dedicated page that is optimized exactly for the audience that you are trying to attract. So for instance, we do this with Pro Church Tools. You know, we were giving away during this build up to the Nucleus launch this free download called the Ultimate Church Website Page Template Library. And it was this download of all these different website page templates. And so we built, I'm starting to sound like Bill, we built our own landing page using our designers and developers.
Yep.
But back in the day, I would use these tools. Like I've used Instapage, OptimizePress, Lead Pages, and ClickFunnels. I've used all of them to build these types of landing pages. We built this page specifically for people that we were driving from Facebook to this page. So there's a big download button at the top that says, here, download this thing. And there's very limited navigation because we don't want someone to land on that page and then get distracted and not take the action we want them to and then click away and go somewhere else. We only have the absolute necessary links that you need in a Facebook ad, that being contact information and then legal terms of service privacy policy. And we put those in the footer, understated, so you don't click away because who wants to read the privacy policy anyway? It's just there to make sure it's kosher with Facebook. And then we don't want to distract, and so we make sure that that page is built specifically to get that action to be taken. And based on our conversion rates, we've had about 5,000 downloads of that template with a 50% conversion rate on that page, which is great. Like if you're doing above 40 for Facebook ads conversion for a lead ad like that, where you're capturing someone's information, that's great. And so we were at 50, very happy with that. And that's at scale with thousands and thousands of visitors and downloads. And so that's what a landing page is meant to be. That's kind of the call to action you want to use. But Facebook has a number of different ads as well. They have this thing called lead ads that allow you to capture a Facebook user's name and email tied directly to their Facebook account without directing them to an external page. So Bill, if you want to do some Google, do some research on lead ads within Facebook, this would allow you to not actually create a landing page yourself using one of these paid tools. So if you want to save money, if you don't want to learn a whole new tool, and even though these tools have templates that you can use and kind of pre-built that you can just customize with your colors, logo, fonts, branding, you can make it easy. Use a Facebook lead ad. We don't use them because it's not the best option for our endeavors, and we have the design, development, and marketing team to put this all together. But if you're a one-man band, the way I used to be, you can use these templates through any of these tools that I mentioned, or use the Facebook lead ad function. You'll still be able to capture email addresses, which will still allow you to follow up with people after they connect through your Facebook ads, but you won't have to go through the trouble of building those pages yourself. Of course, if you want to, Instapage, ClickFunnels, Lead Pages, Optimize Press, 4 tools that I've used to success in the past.
Perfect. All right. Next question comes from Regan, and they say, what do you do with the let us know you're coming info as a church of about 600? I've been confused on that. How do we know which visitors to look out for in a sea of people?
So Regan is responding to a piece of content that we put out, encouraging churches to create a page on their website called the Plan a Visit page.
Yeah.
So in some of the Nucleus demos, we actually put this as the featured card, the first call to action at the very top of a church homepage. And this allows you, this page, we recommend that you create a form on this page that allows a potential new visitor to basically send in their information beforehand. You can also use this to have families pre-register their children beforehand. And this allows you to let you know that a new visitor is planning to attend. And it's a way for that individual to kind of make a certain level of commitment. Mm-hmm. They're not just saying in their head, yeah, I'm probably going to go attend there. It's like making a reservation at a restaurant. Like once those reservations are made, you are much more likely to actually follow through because the reservation is made. Similarly, you can use a form. You could use the Nucleus form builder and submissions dashboard to do this, or whatever website builder you're using to create a plan a visit form so someone can kind of let you know ahead of time that they're coming. What Regan is responding to is saying, okay, if someone fills out that form, but I'm a church of hundreds and hundreds of people, how am I going to know that that's that person, right? Because if you are a restaurant, you go to the front desk and you say, hey, 2 for Brady. And they go, we got you, Brady. And they know who you are. But, if you don't have something like that in your church, how are you going to know? Now, I've talked about doing this in a smaller church. 80% plus churches are less than 250 per weekend on average. And so if someone fills out your plan a visit form and you are the average church, the vast majority of churches, you're likely going to recognize who that new visitor is coming through the doors because your church is small enough where you know everybody and you won't recognize them. And so it's likely that you'll know who they are. With that being said, if you're a church that's larger, or even if you're a church that's 250 and maybe you get a ton of new visitors, or maybe you just don't want to ever even chance the fact that you go up to someone and say, hey, you must be Donna. And they're like, no, I'm Roxanne. You're like, wasn't worth it. Never doing that again. What I would suggest you do is, similar to the front desk at a restaurant, create an area in your lobby that is easily accessible and visible when you first walk in, and you can call this the I'm New area. So when someone fills out your plan a visit form, if you're using Nucleus, that integrates directly with MailChimp or with Planning Center, which can then trigger a follow-up email. And you can do this with so many different options, not just Nucleus. But if someone fills out a form, you can send a follow-up email that says, hey, we're so looking forward to having you, Donna. When you arrive, make sure you head straight to the I'm New table. This is where we can make sure you get everything you need. We can introduce ourselves and make sure that your whole first experience at our church is great.
That's great.
So then Donna and her family know, okay, the first thing that we're supposed to do is go to the I'm New table. And they filled out the form, so you know they're coming. You got them written down, and then they show up and and you say, hi, so great to have you. What's your name? And they say, oh, I'm Donna. You're like, Donna, oh, we're so excited to have you. And it all works that way. That is the absolute best way to do it. Imagine if you were a restaurant, and you had reservations and someone come in and like, does this look like a Brady? Does this look like a Dennis? Okay, this is a Donna. Okay, hi, Donna. No, I'm Roxanne. Obviously, they have that front desk for a reason. You can create a similar area in your lobby, call it the I'm New table, send up that follow-up email as soon as they fill out the plan a visit form so they know ahead of time what to expect. They'll head straight to that lobby. They can pre-register their kids online using that plan a visit form. It's all above board. Everything is great. Much better first-time experience for your new visitors, which means they're much more likely to return, become an integrated part of your church. You're good to go from there.
Yeah, that having an I'm New section is such a good idea, because even when I've been going to church my whole life, But even when I go to new churches, I'm like, I don't even know where the sanctuary is. Oh, I kind of hear music, so I guess I'll go there. And sometimes you just don't know. Like, you don't know who to ask. Everyone's dressed in nice clothes. You're like, I don't know who here knows something.
In the year 2000, Barna reported that 6 out of every 10 Americans had attended church recently. And I forget the exact time frame for what recently was. I don't know if it was the last month. I think it was the last year. 6 out of every 10, 58%. They did the same study 15 years forward, 2015, and that 58% number had dropped all the way to 46%.
Wow.
So basically, a percent drop every single year. And this trend hasn't curbed. So that means we've got almost 20 straight years, almost 2 straight decades of like a percent drop in church attendance every single year. What does this mean? It means that people are becoming less and less familiar with church. And you just heard from Roxanne, someone who's been going to church her whole life. Even she doesn't exactly know what's expected of her sometimes. Imagine what that would be like for someone who's never been to a church.
Yeah, it's very true.
Which is now becoming more and more frequent and popular. Millennials, Gen Z behind us, going to be way more unchurched than Gen X and boomers. So you need to make that first-time experience that much better, and you need to think through, get in the mindset, the frame of what it's like for someone to attend who's never been there before. They don't know where to sit. They don't know what to expect. What about my kids? You can work so much of this out using your website, but then still, once someone gets into that parking lot and walks through your doors for the first time, even when they're driving into the parking lot, what can you do to make that first experience a great one? Because you only get one chance that first visit, just like you only get one chance visiting a restaurant for the first time. And I think all of us would agree, like, the first visit to a new restaurant pretty much is the dictating factor whether or not you return to that restaurant.
For sure.
Same with your church. You get one shot. Think through it. Make it the best it can be.
Yeah. All right. Next question comes from Michael, and he says, "Hey Brady, I'm a pastor of a non-denominational church that is now starting to see some growth. I see a lot of churches have mission statements, vision statements, core values, etc. I can see how they can all have their place, but I wonder if mission statements at churches are becoming too cliché to be really effective or necessary. I get that everyone wants to know what we're about, what we believe, etc., but I wonder if some ambiguity could be useful. Any thoughts?"
Well, thanks for the question, Michael. Pretty much every church's mission or vision statement can be distilled down to one of two things, or a combination of two things. The first being the Great Commandments, love God, love people. The second being the Great Commission, make disciples. Pretty much every church's existence, mission or vision statement, can be distilled down to love God, love people, make disciples, some way to fancy word those so that it's really easily rememberable. Rememberable is not a word. And I understand where Michael's coming from, kind of implying that they're all the same. What do they even really mean? I would push back, though, on this idea that they're not important. I definitely can see the corporate wording. It's just a sentence or two on paper. It doesn't mean anything. But I think the true power of a mission statement or a vision statement comes when you can create a narrative that allows every single person, both in your church, but also in leadership and on staff, to buy into what you're trying to accomplish. We saw a big change in pro-church tools when we came out with this statement: seize the 167. Seize the 167 hours beyond your Sunday service. It really served two purposes. Namely, it really created a narrative that everyone in pro-church nation was able to grasp onto. Yep. Up until that, I was like, what's so important about like video and social and website? We used to talk about, what do you do? Well, we talk about websites and we talk about social media and graphic design and creating videos. And they're like, oh, cool. When we were able to distill that was all true. But when we were able to distill that into a narrative, we helped churches seize the 167 hours beyond their 1 hour service. When we were able to distill everything we do down into that single sentence, it created a movement of sorts where everyone can kind of grasp onto that. It's like, yeah, we are pioneers. This is a whole new world, and we're trying to figure it out as we go. And every industry is changing, and our churches are not immune to that. And we're living through the biggest communication shift in the last 500 years. We need to seize the 167 because otherwise we're vulnerable as churches. We can become irrelevant as churches. Yeah. It was all the same thing that we were doing before, but we had a new narrative that allowed people to like lock onto it, latch onto it. That was what Apple did with their kind of groundbreaking commercial where they're, back in the day were like, for the misfits, for the people that don't fit in, for the square pegs in the round hole, think different. And everyone was like, oh, I'm so into that. I am a weirdo. Look, everyone's a weirdo. That's what made the brand campaign so good. Just like Seize the 167 is for everyone. Every church needs to realize that they can reach their people beyond their 1 hour service.
Yeah.
So we were never doing anything different, but we framed it differently. We had a narrative. That was the first thing that mission statement did. The second thing it did, it has clarified how we make decisions going forward. For instance, there have been a million decisions made that this mission statement and kind of driving force behind our company, allowed us to clarify what decisions we were making. But like one I got recently, I got a DM just this week, and someone was like, man, what if you took your story tape stock videos and like turned them into motion backgrounds? Like that would be so great. Like we love what Jeff over at CMG is doing, but his are a bit more like graphic centered. Yours could be footage centered. You should totally do that. And I was like, that's a great idea, except my company is about seasoning the 167. There are enough companies and enough people allocating all of their resources to a better Sunday morning. I care about the other 167 hours. And he was like, oh, that's so true. Love it. Like it made so much sense to him why, right? If you don't have a mission or vision statement, it's that old saying, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. Something will come along. A bright new shiny object will come along. And if you're a leader of a church, you probably have similar instincts to me as an entrepreneur, which is like we love starting things. We love seeing the beginning stages, but we don't really know or are great at seeing everything through. If you don't have a really strong driving force behind your decision making, you're just going to be all over the road, all over the map, not a single channel. And just as Michael's church is beginning to see growth now, that's great. I think one way to channel that growth so it can be consistent and continual and even exponentially more than now is to create this narrative that everyone can lock into. So my church is inviting people into a life that matters. And everything that we do boils down to that. And what is inviting people into a life that matters? It's love God, love people, make disciples. It's all the same, right? Just like we weren't doing anything different at Pro Church Tools, but we created a narrative and it created so much more momentum because people could grasp it, could latch onto it. Similarly, your mission and vision statement won't be any different when it comes to the core of what the church is meant to be and do, but who you're serving and how you're serving them, it can be unique, and you can create this narrative, inviting people into a life that matters. That is something that we can all latch onto. It's memorable. You can say it again and again, and it can drive decisions. So like, okay, what should we invest more into? Should we do a building, or should we do more small groups, or what should we do? Well, let's get down to what are we functioning? Why do we exist? Inviting people into a life that matters. How does that now inform the decision that we're trying to make? So on the one hand, to summarize, Michael, I totally think that corporate mission or vision statements that really don't mean anything and just sound like a lot of gobbledygook that every church says, like, you're right, I don't really see much of a purpose in that. But I think when you can create one that is unique to your church, unique to your existence, your location, your strengths, your weaknesses, and the people you're trying to serve. And when you can use it to create a narrative that people can latch onto, that can drive momentum in your church and can inform the decisions you're making, that's when a vision/mission statement becomes so powerful. And I think it's one of the most important things that churches can focus on, their creative energy, figuring it out. Because once you have it, it can really, really change the game for your church.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that decision making is one of the main reasons that you should have that like written down or put in place somehow, because it's so easy. There's a lot of good ideas and great things to get involved in, but you want to make sure it's the right things and that you're pouring your time and investing in the right things for your church.
Well, we talk about that idea how everything works, and that's the problem. Like mobile apps can work, and they do work in some churches. If you're just blindly following trends, you'll end up wasting money, you'll end up wasting time, wasting resources, and wasting commitment and trust with your church and your audience. If you have a mission statement, though, that is real and actually has meaning, you can filter everything through that, and it can keep everyone on the same page.
Yeah, exactly. All right, last question comes from Faith Church, and they say, any advice on how to create more interesting captions on Instagram to increase engagement?
Yeah, I'm glad we're doing a question on this because we post a lot on Instagram.
Yes.
And we focus a ton of our efforts on the caption. And one thing that we do with this, and I'll ask Roxanne's opinion on this in a bit too, because she's an Instagram legend and purveyor herself. But one thing that we do is that we break up our Instagram captions using underscores. So I love the idea of long form captions. If you're a legend on Instagram, you can just post a beautiful photo and be like, vibes, and get 4,000 likes.
True.
But I think that, as churches, as smaller, influencers on Instagram like us, is like, you want to provide as much value as possible. And so we post a great photo, hopefully, but then we also accompany that photo or image with a really long form caption. Now, the thing with long form captions is that if you just see a big group of text, you're not going to want to read it because it takes a lot of effort to be like, okay, there's a lot of text here. Oh, did I just jump 2 lines? Or okay, this is not worth it. Keep scrolling. So what we do is we start off every single paragraph with an emoji. So, Alex is in charge of these a lot right now. So, it starts with an emoji, then we'll have 2 or 3 lines of text, and then we'll do a line break, and then I think we'll put in 4 underscores, and then we'll line break again, emoji, and the next paragraph. And we do this. You can go to Instagram.com/Brady Shearer, at Brady Shearer on Instagram. You can look at our captions and see exactly how we do this. And what this allows us to do is write a ton, provide a ton of value, but break it up so it's easily consumable and readable for people. So when it comes to formatting, that's a great way to use Instagram captions. Long form is a great way. Telling stories, like if you have a picture of someone, a photo of a person or a family from your church, the photo is great, but give me a story to go along with it so I can really know the story behind the face of this individual.
Yeah.
Anything you want to add about Instagram captions?
Line breaks are huge, for sure. Like, I think you were one of the first people that I saw doing it, and I was like, this is so much better because it is super hard to read text, and it was so unreliable to know you actually have entered as if there's a line break, but Instagram doesn't always save it that way.
Yes.
So the underscores, for some reason, work. So
Instagram will not recognize if you just do a line break. The reason we do 4 underscores and then a line break is because it forces Instagram to put in the line break. Otherwise, they won't. I've done asterisks before, and one thing that will break this technique, at least on the current version of Instagram, is like, let's say you do 4 underscores and then accidentally add an extra space after it. If you add the space, it will not work. You have to have 4 underscores, direct line break.
Right. Yeah. So that, and you have to exactly be relevant to your audience. So my audience is not the same as your audience. So for your audience, giving knowledge-based stuff is super relevant, as I'm sure what gets the most interaction. But for my audience, it's when I'm telling personal stories or personal struggles about something I'm going through. So they don't really care when I post pictures of my cat, but when I'm talking about, struggles with depression or anxiety or something I'm going through in my life, suddenly I'll get tons of comments and stuff and being oh, I'm going through that too. So just know your audience and what's relevant to them.
That's huge because Roxanne's hitting on authenticity and being open and vulnerable. We talk about this idea of leading with vulnerability, that everybody wants to talk about everything and we're all going through the same stuff. But until someone breaks the ice, leads with vulnerability and talks about it, it just doesn't really open it up for anybody else. But then when that someone does, you see it all trickle through. We just saw this in the NBA this last week. So DeMar DeRozan of the Toronto Raptors, he posts during All-Star Weekend on his Instagram man, life sucks, I'm depressed. Then we see Kevin Love of the Cleveland Cavaliers. He comes out with a Players Tribune article detailing his complete struggle with anxiety. And then we see Kelly Oubre of the Washington Wizards talk about his. It's one person breaks the ice, leads with vulnerability, and then everyone else is invited into the conversation. And so that's a great way to use the Instagram platform. Use those captions to lead with vulnerability. And another great thing is to ask questions, have some fun with it. There are so many different directions that you can go with this. When it comes to your personal account, your church's individual account, what I would do is, as we always suggest, look what you've done over the last 6 months, or start posting with intention with your captions. And in 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, take inventory of every single post, look at the engagement divided by reach and saying, okay, we had 3,000 reach, we had 150 engagement. Okay, this had a 1.5% or whatever it is reach. Oh, okay, this post actually outperformed all the others. What did we do differently here? And then figure out what is working based on your unique audience. So use all these tips and tactics that we've given as kind of shots in the dark. Things that have worked for us, worked for others, probably will work for you. But then actually look at the data from your unique platforms, your individual platforms, to see which are working best, and then double down on those strategies. I'm a huge proponent of churches just doubling down on what works, going deep rather than wide, because we're limited with our resources, time, creativity, energy, and skill. So we got to double down on what works. And we do the same thing at Pro Church Tools, so we like that approach. That'll do it for today's episode of the Ask Brady Show. If you want your question answered, send it into hello@prochurchtools.com. Send in a video, and you'll be sent immediately to the top of the queue like Bill was this week. hello@prochurchtools.com. You can also hashtag your question on Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, or Facebook. And I just want to stop and make a small personal note that if you're still listening or watching at this point, you are one of the most dedicated members of Pro Church Nation. And, we're in the middle of our Nucleus launch this week, which for us represents 18 months of hard work, a lot of behind the scenes stuff that it wasn't glamorous, extremely difficult, way more difficult than selling courses. I don't know why we made this decision. It's the best thing ever, but it's so difficult. And, more than $1 million spent. We really just took like all the profit that we ever made as a company, reinvested it into this website builder because we were like, we want another option for churches. We want something that is never existed before. And we think that we have an at-bat to take a swing and see if we can do this. And whether you sign up for Nucleus or not, if you're listening at this point, you have been such a huge part of making that possible. And we couldn't have done it without you. So from the bottom of my heart, from Brady and everyone else at Pro Church Tools, thank you so much for making this possible. We've already had more than 1,000 churches join Nucleus during our kind of beta charter phase. And now that we're open fully to the public, we're just going to help so many more churches. We just got a message from before we hit record on this, like 10 minutes ago, from someone who an individual in their community landed on their Nucleus. They had their live chat enabled, and they're like, hey, what's this church all about? They responded, and that person is going to attend their church this week.
Yes.
And they sent us an email, a message in the Facebook, in the private Nucleus Insiders group saying, this is making a difference. Like, this is a game changer. And so you were a part of that, making it possible. We don't have outside investors. No one is giving us money to make this. We're spending our own money, my own money, building this, saying, I need to help churches. Like, I cannot not work for churches. And we love what we get to do. And again, it's only possible because of you. So enough blabbering from me. That'll do it for today's episode of the Ask Brady Show. Go seize the 167 Pro Church Nation. We love you so much, and we'll talk soon.